I'm Grace Osemerin. Today, in episode 3, we are diving into something many women face but rarely recognize. Is the fog between who you are and how you see yourself. A quiet force shaping how you judge yourself, talk to yourself, show up, lead, make decisions, and most of the time, you don't even know it's there. Let's clear the fog. What is the fog? The fog is the gap between your true self and your perceived self. And when I mean your true self, I mean the you that God created without the labels and external elements. And your perceived self is how you see yourself or how the world and experiences have made you see yourself. The fog, is made up of old stories, past experiences, childhood roles, pressure, fear, expectations, survival habits. The fog doesn't show up loudly, it shows up quietly. It shows up when you downplay your strengths, question your value, shrink in rooms you should own, overthink simple decisions, apologize for existing, feel unsure when you are capable. The fog is not who you are, it is what you learned. A woman once told me she felt like she was always almost enough. She was brilliant, had degrees, awards, and a strong career. But when she looked at herself, she only saw what she lacked. She compared herself to everyone, second guessed every win, and felt like she was always one step behind. One day, she got a promotion she had worked so hard for. Instead of celebrating, she cried. She didn't cry out of joy, but from fear. She said, "What if they find out I'm not as good as they think?" That moment exposed the fog. Then the work began. We started peeling out the unnecessary elements and rebuilt her from the inside out. She learned to see her strengths clearly, trust her voice, stand in her own story, and slowly the fog was gone. How does identity shape self-perception? You don't see yourself through clear glass. You see yourself through the lens of your identity. If your identity says, "I'm the strong one," you hide your needs. When it says, "I'm the quiet one," you silence your voice. When it shows up as the fixer, you take on too much. When it says, "I'm the responsible one," you carry weight that isn't yours. And when it says, I must not fail," you live in fear. Identity becomes the filter, and the filter becomes the fog. In this situation, you are not seeing yourself, you are seeing the version of you that life taught you to be. The fog makes you misread yourself. It makes you underestimate your strengths, overestimate your flaws, question your worth, doubt your decisions, shrink your voice, hide your gifts, settle for less, overthink everything. It's not that you are weak, it's that you are looking at yourself through a distorted mirror. A woman once told me she always felt too much. She was expressive and bold. She had ideas, had passion. But growing up, people told her she was loud. They told her to calm down, to shrink, to fit in, to behave like a girl. So she did. As an adult, she held back in meetings, softened her voice, and hid her brilliance. One day, she watched someone else share an idea she had discussed but had been too afraid to say. Everyone praised the person. She sat there thinking, that could have been me. That was when her fracture happened. It broke her. And after we met, she started rebuilding herself. She learned that her voice wasn't too much. Rather, it was powerful, it was needed, and she began to use it again. How do you clear the fog? I presume this question is on most of our minds. You don't clear the fog by forcing confidence. You clear it by reconnecting with yourself. And here's how. 1. You start by noticing the stories you tell yourself. Ask, what do I believe about myself that might not be true? 2. Question where these stories come from. Ask, did I learn this, or is this who I am? 3. Separate your voice from other people's voices. Not every voice you hear belongs to you. 4. Look at your strengths without shrinking. Acknowledge your strengths. Say them out loud. Be proud of them. Write them down. Own them. 5. Give yourself permission to be seen. Visibility is not a threat, it's an alignment. 6. Practice seeing yourself with clarity, not fear. Clarity grows with use, so use it. When it comes to self-perception, the truth is, you don't see yourself as you are. You see yourself as you were taught to be. And that means you can unlearn it, rebuild it, and clear the fog. Self-perception is not fixed, it's shaped, and anything shaped can be reshaped. A few years ago, I met a woman who I ended up working with. She once told me she didn't recognize herself anymore. She had spent years being everything for everyone. She had carried roles, expectations, and pressures, and ended up losing her voice, her spark, and her sense of self. One day she looked in the mirror and said, "I don't know who I am." That realization shook her. It was honest, raw, and the beginning of something new. And we started working. She learned to see herself with fresh eyes, honor her truth, trust her own reflection again, and slowly the fog cleared. When the fog lifts, everything changes. You make clearer decisions, speak with more confidence, set stronger boundaries, lead with more presence, trust yourself more deeply. Seeing yourself clearly is not a luxury, it's leadership. Thank you for joining today's episode of Identity First. If this helped or challenged you, share it with one woman who needs clarity. Remember, you can learn to see yourself without the fog, and when you do, your whole life opens up. See you next week.